Conscious.Enterprises. I'm Roxana Rapicha, and this conversation is so educational and informative. The wellness industry can sometimes have a tendency towards the ethereal or the woo-woo, which I understand can be hard for some people to grasp. But what I love about Danielle Posa is that she has such a direct, upfront, and no BS vibe. It makes sense that large corporations and icons such as Deepak Chopra would value partnering and working with someone like her. As the Wellbeing Hacker, Danielle is bringing well-being into the corporate world, not just in a yoga and meditation way, which is valuable in and of itself, but in a data-backed way, which is extremely important. Loaded with a plethora of statistics and research to pull from, Danielle is legitimizing the wellness game in business and substantiating the importance of defining personal purpose. In this conversation, we discuss so many valuable topics for conscious leaders. Danielle shares her experience as a former executive at Gallup. She talks about surviving cancer as a child. She shares insights about the power of the mind. She tells us about her program with Deepak Chopra and how she believes well-being should be a standardized measurement. There's also a ton of resources that we mention in this conversation that I will link to on the Conscious.Enterprises website, so please check that out. Please enjoy this conversation and follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can always find us at www.conscious.enterprises.
Thank you so much for being here at Conscious.Enterprises headquarters.
I love it. It's a great place.
So you are the Wellbeing Hacker. You were formerly a consultant at Gallup, and I know you created a program with Deepak Chopra. You've done a lot of really amazing things. Let's first start with the Wellbeing Hacker. What is that exactly? What do you do? What is a Wellbeing Hacker?
Good question. So the term kind of came about naturally because I started to refer to myself that way. You know, when people ask what I do and what I'm passionate about or whatever, I was like, well, I kind of hack well-being. And what that meant for me is I've done just so much research and reading, and I've taken all these courses and stuff, and I've been just intrigued with human behavior and human psychology, what it takes to live a good life, and kind of would go through all that stuff and think what's the most effective, and I'd always be kind of curating that space. But I also have a business mind, so I kind of think of my life almost as a business in a sense. It's I want to know that the effort that I put into my life is guaranteed to get some kind of ROI on happiness almost. So it's
Okay.
So when I think of hacking your well-being, it's really knowing the truth behind well-being and what gives you a sense of vitality and fulfillment in life.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's tied to research, because then I feel I can navigate the waters easier, because it's more clear and it's backed by some kind of evidence. So there's kind of this business lens to looking at my well-being.
Okay.
So that's kind of what.
So that's how you became the Wellbeing Hacker.
Cool.
Yeah. And so how did you turn that into a business for yourself? What is it that you're providing for as a service?
So there's kind of two sides to what I do. There's personal offerings, and then there's the business side, because I've always gravitated towards making an impact in workplaces, because people's well-being can shift faster when there's people around them that are also working on their well-being, or when there's a culture that's supporting that. But then there's individuals who are on that well-being journey themselves as well. So, on my site, I'm creating different offerings that include on live and online courses, assessments, events, retreats, things like that both apply to the individual and to the workplace.
Great. And what did you do before?
And let me know if anything's not clear, because sometimes if I...
No, I think that makes sense. You're basically instilling well-being into these corporations,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do before that? Let me just pick up my dog.
Yeah, I think she will sit here.
She'll join us.
Yeah. Hi. Dogs are good for your well-being.
Yeah, they definitely, doesn't it lower like your cortisol or
I don't know,
something?
there actually is, I think, some kind of research on that.
So what did you do before the Wellbeing Hacker? I know you were at Gallup.
Well, I've had my own business for the past like 5 years. I didn't kind of launch this.
Long.
Yeah, I didn't launch this Wellbeing Hacker concept or brand until late. Well, I guess it was summer last year.
Okay.
Because I really just wanted to like go all in well-being. And before that, I just did a lot of different types of consulting, because I've done just, when you start your own business, you kind of do whatever you'll get paid for at the beginning.
Right.
But I'd always work with clients who were just more conscious, who had, a little bit more of like a purpose behind whatever it is that they were doing.
Cool.
And so for the first few years I helped people with sales, with their brand. I, did different like marketing things. It was kind of a whole bunch of things. Yeah. So that was like for the first 4 years. And before that, I was a management consultant at Gallup.
Okay.
And I was there for about 4 years, and that was like my first job out of college, and did some stuff before that. But the Gallup, I guess working at Gallup just really catalyzed my passion into this area, because Gallup had launched like the first global study on well-being around the world, which I was like fascinated by.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And what did they find in that study?
It was most people don't know this, like, because now we hear about like the World Happiness Report and all the, well-being has kind of caught on now.
Yeah.
But they did the first ever, like before anybody was really talking about well-being in the workplace and like really legitimizing it.
Yeah.
They did this study so they have a world poll, and they're the only organization that can actually survey the world in a very realistic sense.
Okay.
So they basically, said we want to figure out, if there's commonality across all countries in terms of what it takes to live a thriving life.
Okay.
And they found that, across the board, it basically came down to 5 key areas that, when it comes to work, you need to have a sense of purpose and be like engaged in what you do. It's not enough just to like work. And that it also contributes to a long life. It's not just, when people are excited about the work that they do, kind of like what I think Conscious.Enterprises is about. That is what contributes to them living long. People don't want to retire, actually. They want to, they want to feel useful and purposeful for the majority of their life. And so work around the world and having a sense of purpose in your work is important no matter what country you're in.
Right.
And then relationships is a top second, basically, in terms of importance. They're almost, hand in hand. But relationships, like what they found with that, is that it's about, the quality of the relationships, whether or not you have love in your life, and if you have people that you can share your vision with, like you want to be around, not just have friends. It's not as simple as that. It's important to have people that, like share your drive in life,
you
or
feel
the
connected
things,
to.
and the, whatever the mission is that you have, to be able to share in that, or just be around people that help you develop as a person, because we always want to be developing and growing in some way. It's just part of human nature. And then there's the money category, which is interesting because around the world people don't. We've been taught the wrong things when it comes to money, because we've mainly been taught how to maximize an amount of money. Right. The world of money, especially in the States, is all about, investing and increasing your net worth and all of that. We know very little about what it takes to actually like buy happiness, how to really use that money properly in ways that definitely, gives you a sense of well-being.
Right.
So there's, various things that were discovered about that too.
What an interesting report. I would
Yeah,
love to read that.
I can go. Yeah, I can. Really
Maybe is it like available online if people want to read it?
Yeah, I mean, really, they have a book called Wellbeing: The 5 Essential Elements that kind of like dives into the reports and stuff.
Amazing. Okay.
But it's been ongoing research, and like I always keep up with it because it's the best that's out there.
Yeah.
Like wellness and well-being means so many things, and really like when I like get into it, I'm like interested in like the when I say like the legitimate term, it's like there's a certain way that you can actually measure it, in a company or a country, and it's not just mindfulness or meditation.
Totally.
It's like inclusive of all that stuff, but there's just like a I just feel like there isn't enough structure around like what it
on how
means
to measure it.
in society.
I think that's what's so interesting actually about your work. That's
so I kind of try to dig into more of that
cool.
stuff. Yeah,
I love that. And you also created a course available online with Deepak Chopra called Workplace Wellbeing and the Soul of Leadership. I wanted to take it so bad, but when it was in New York City, but it didn't go with my schedule. It looked really amazing. So yeah, how did you connect with Deepak Chopra, and what is this program about?
I met him actually through Gallup. It was kind of synchronistic because before I even applied like to interview at Gallup, I saw that he was one of like the senior scientists on their board, and I just remember thinking to myself, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, the fact that they're affiliated with people like Deepak Chopra, like to
you
me,
wouldn't think that of Gallup at all,
right?
Yeah.
Well, it was so the senior scientist board includes like other like economists, Nobel laureates, like thought leaders in the human behavior and like development space, and so Deepak falls into that world.
Cool.
So when I saw his name, I was like, that really says something about the kind of company that Gallup was. It was one of the things that made me want to work there. And I remember thinking like, if I work there, I'm going to find a way to talk to him. Awesome. And I hadn't read any of his books or anything. It wasn't like I was like a big, huge fan.
Right.
I just knew that he was fascinating. I always believed in the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And so the CEO was in the office one day, and I said, hey, what's our relationship with Deepak? I saw his name on the site, and he was like, oh, he's a good friend. He's a fan of our work.
Oh, cool.
I'll take you to lunch when I'm in town. And it just so happened that when he was planning to meet with Deepak, and he told me a year later, like, hey, I'm meeting with Deepak. Do you want to come with us for lunch? The reason that they were meeting was to discuss the well-being research.
Oh, you're kidding.
And when it first came out, I was like upset. I thought it was so smart, so needed in the world. And so it was perfect because now I'm like meeting with him about something that I was so passionate about. And that's when the CEO said, well, she'll be your liaison for whatever, if you need any access to the research, like she'll give it to you.
Got it.
And I basically just started sending it to him all the time. And
so cool.
Yeah, he just like started taking me on like all of his meetings, and I think he just knew that I was pretty.
What was the thing that you'd say you were like most impressed with Deepak about, like as a person?
Oh, just him in general, you mean?
Or as a business person.
I mean, he's definitely human,
Yeah.
I mean, but he really, he is deep. Like he's not into small talk. He is somebody who like really just, he is just genuinely fascinated with like the universe and the just basically human existence.
Right.
So I think, I guess to answer your question, it's the fact that he is somebody who's truly living his life path and life mission.
That's amazing.
The stuff that he writes about and talks about, it's like, he's channeling something. It's not just it's not just like knowledge that he has.
Amazing.
I think it goes beyond that, and I think that's really cool. He's just like the real deal in what he, what he's passionate about. Yeah.
That's so cool. Love that. So what was the program that you guys put together? It seemed like there was a lot of
workplace
business
well-being
leaders and
yeah, I mean, so the whole idea of it was that in order to really be, in a nutshell, it's like a conscious leadership program.
right.
And the idea of it was that to really be a conscious leader, first you have to like know how to even get in touch with your spiritual side or your
Right.
soul.
Right.
And a lot of people, that sounds daunting, especially if
Yeah.
you're not in the spiritual world
Yeah.
at all. It's like, soul, what is
Yeah.
that? How do you get in touch with that?
Even for me, sometimes the word soul, I'm kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, and so part of that course was like just having people realize it's you know, at the simplest level, it's this it's just that quieter self that's
Right.
harder to hear
Right.
a lot of the time. It's the real choice maker
Mm-hmm.
that is not your brain. It's the choice maker tells the brain what to do, and so it's
Right.
like the course is about first having leaders get more to the heart of really what that soul is telling them,
Okay.
and take a step back and go through a series of questions like, why do you want to be a leader? You know, how
Right.
does your business connect to a bigger picture in the world?
Right.
So getting them to think more deeply, and sometimes you have to just take a break from everything and go into a room with Deepak
Yeah.
to actually take that break. So it was a combination of soul searching stuff like that, which he did, and then I focused a lot on the well-being, you know, research and talking about how in order to be a conscious leader, you have to know how to manage your own well-being,
Yeah.
which means your whole life, right?
Yeah.
You have to like have somebody, you have to be somebody, really to be a conscious leader, it's like you should be somebody who's living, you know, your purpose in some way,
Right.
who respects your relationships and makes them a priority, right? So that you're somebody who's living this kind of balanced life.
Right.
But then also that part of your leadership duty is to care about the well-being of your people.
Yes.
So there's kind of two sides to the well-being discussion. It was like well-being for you as a leader, and also how are you making sure that you're taking into consideration the well-being of your employees
Right.
and then your customers, because whatever it is that you're producing in the world is having an effect on
it all
your
is a ripple
customers.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we were trying to recontextualize well-being as a more conscious way of leading, not just like a
Right.
yoga program in your organization.
Totally,
Like that's
yeah.
not what well-being means, not
Yeah.
from our perspective. So that was what it was about.
From your experience doing these kind of seminars and, you know, leadership programs and things like that, what do you think makes businesses and leaders most successful?
Makes them most successful. Well, how do you define success? That's kind of the main
Yeah,
thing
that's another
first.
question we'll get to too. Or you can
Yeah.
answer it now. What do you think?
I mean, to me, I think it's kind of a combination of what we've been saying. It's, you know, for some people, being a successful leader, business leader, could mean that you said you were going to build a organization of size X with a certain amount of employees and
Yeah.
make, you know, the top of the Forbes list or something like that. And if you've achieved what you said you would set out to achieve, that's success.
Right.
But to me, it's like success is really when you are clear on what those intentions are, and they're really coming from a good place, that you have like authentic reasons to build an organization, and you're clear on the impact that you're making.
Yes.
And that your reason for building, you know, goes beyond just you know, the your own personal goals and
Right.
dreams, and you're present to like that impact that it's having. So to me, it kind of, you know, ties into just being grounded in yourself and building something that has a genuine impact.
Cool. Love that. Of the business leaders that you've worked with or clients, etc., have you found that there was any examples of anyone that would have benefited from having left out a commitment to some sort of conscious intent or conscious purpose?
That's a good question. Well, yeah, I mean, some people aren't ready for it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, well, the short answer is no, because I don't think there's ever not a, you know, ever not like a reason to go that route, but I guess like, you know, again, it just like, it goes back to what it is that you're like setting out to achieve. Like sometimes, like even in my own business and the stuff that I do with the Wellbeing Hacker that I have been doing, I say to myself sometimes like, why couldn't you just pick a really simple business? Because I love business. I've done different types of entrepreneurial things in my life that were a lot easier to be successful at quicker from like a monetary standpoint, because it would just be like, all right, well, if I'm gonna just sell X, I know the process for being a good salesperson and developing relationships and selling the crap out of something.
Right.
And that would be a lot easier in a certain way, but it's just nowhere near as more fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
Like we live in this world that's kind of addicted to scalability, and it's all about, you know, exponential growth. And we never, we don't question why we are so addicted to that growth. It's like, why? Because at the end of the day, a slower path that gives you fulfillment along the way for a longer period of time is really much better than trying to rush into something just to get that growth, more so monetarily than anything else, maybe chasing that list or ranking that you want to make, or the 30 under 30, or you know, whatever that is. And I've seen it. I know entrepreneurs who have done that and then hit like 35 or 40, and they're like, well, now what? Now I've got all this money, and I really did enjoy building that business, but I sold it, and I kind of just went out to like chase that carrot of growth.
Right.
But it's like, well, what for?
And then
What
they end
for?
up feeling empty or depressed or this or that. Right?
Yeah, and I've seen it in younger people like our age, and I've seen it with like, you know, 65-year-old like CEOs who are like, now I want me to build a legacy.
Right.
So I don't know how we ended up, what the original question was, but the point being that I think we have to...
Yeah, the importance of, I guess, integrating, you know, a conscious intent.
Oh, you asked me like, if there's ever a time to
mm-hmm.
not be doing that. So so it's like at the end of the day, you could do something easier to make more money, I think, than necessarily following a more conscious path. But you don't learn the same kind of life lessons or get the same type of fulfillment from it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like life sometimes just loops you back around if you're not going to take that road anyways.
Yes,
so you're just going to have to deal with it eventually.
The universe will be like, nope, you didn't learn the lesson. I'm sending you something.
Here you go.
Yep,
another big pile of poo for you to deal with.
I totally believe that.
How do you personally align your own business goals with a conscious intention? Do you have like a ritual that you stick to every day? Do you,
I mean, honestly, at this point, I spent so much time really trying to figure out my own like purpose.
Right.
I really did. I mean, I've done so many different types of my own kind of self-development exercises and brainstorms. I mean, a lot of my travels, like I've done a lot of solo traveling, where that's given me a ton of kind of soul searching opportunities, where I'd like literally sit on a beach with a blank notepad by myself, like in like a weird place, like a beach in Haiti. I went to Haiti for like a week and just like sat on a beach every day by myself. Wow. Just to like, I do a lot of mind maps on white paper.
What do you mean mind maps?
Like just like brainstorm, like, circles.
Journaling kind of thing, or?
No, I'm like a visual person, so I like white paper, and I'll do like a lot of circles and charts and stuff. So I like to just kind of get everything out of my mind.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's funny because to me, I don't know. I guess I think a lot of people do that, but
no, I've never done. Maybe in like high school, but like
really, it just helps me kind of get like I try to just draw as the way that I'm thinking. So I think of a concept or a thought, and then I expand on it a little bit. It's like I have the circles. And then, so I've done a lot of that where I'm like, I've really consciously thought about why am I here on the planet, and then I've also done a lot of courses that have given me the time to take a step back and think about those things. And a lot of people don't do those kinds of courses because they think it's like, weird, or they don't have the time for it. And I think it's we have to take the time to
Right.
do those kinds of things. Like,
Yeah.
especially earlier in your life, it's an investment in yourself.
Yeah. So you're
So-
just regularly kind of signing yourself up for these kind of
Yeah, and I
things.
did it like, I was like 19. That's when I
Oh,
started.
wow. You were.
Yeah, so
That's
now
awesome.
there's little ways that, I mean, I do meditate almost every day, and so I
Mhm.
do, but I think at this point, I feel like my purpose is so ingrained in me that it's
Yeah.
not like I have to keep it present. It's more
Mhm.
about like doing things to just keep me more grounded in it, I guess you could say.
And what do you do to do that?
Well, meditation is
Meditation,
definitely one of
yeah.
them. I have kind of
Okay.
like a vision board on Pinterest that I
Oh,
look at
okay.
every day too, as
Cool.
like a way to remind me like what I'm
What you're doing.
aiming for and stuff. And then it's just like a matter of, you know, kind of daily habits that I think are good to practice and
Yeah.
stuff that help you stay more centered and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
focused.
yeah.
Great. So we're kind of switch gears here. I know you had a lot of health issues as a kid.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that and how you think that that has kind of shaped, you know, your perspective on the world and how you conduct yourself in work and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 5.
Non-Hodgkin's.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so I mean I had a pretty typical cancer experience in the
Yeah.
sense that like I had, you know, full-fledged chemo and lost all my hair. I was homeschooled, like all my teachers
Oh,
came
wow.
over like after school was out and like taught me.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh wow, that's
Because when your immune system's
yeah.
compromised, they have to keep you away from like all the kids and
And
stuff.
you said you were 5?
Yeah.
Oh my
So it was like
God.
kindergarten, first grade. I was
Okay.
homeschooled. So so that and like you know I had like blood transfusions, spinal taps, and like all that
Wow.
stuff. Yeah. But I think one of the bigger realizations that I had later on was that when I was old enough to like ask my parents like what happened when I started to get interested. I'm like, wait, so I had
Yeah.
cancer? What
was that
happened to me?
year
Was it
of-
really bad? Was I
Yeah.
supposed to live? Like, you know, I started asking all these questions.
Yeah.
And when they shared some of the details with me, I remember being like, whoa, I'm so glad I didn't know this when I was a kid.
Oh,
like, Because I
really?
remember thinking like, I bet it was good for me that I wasn't aware of
What really
the
was
reality
going on?
Yeah. I was like, because I think, I just remember this feeling of like, whoa, that's so good that my
Wow.
mind wasn't affected
Yeah.
by all of that.
How do you think your parents kind of kept that?
Well, I think it's just a function of being a kid.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like, and in a weird way, I feel like it's unfair that adults aren't treated the same way.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, the doctor's not going to be like, honey, you have this % chance of living.
Oh,
You know, like they would never do that.
Right.
But they do that to an adult. They'll be
Right.
like, so here's the, you know,
Yeah.
Roxanna, here's what you can
These are your
expect.
chances. Yeah, good
Right,
luck.
and then you go home and your mind now is like contaminated. I call it like cancer of the mind.
Right, right.
Which I think is like way worse than whatever's happening in your body. Like there's
Interesting.
crazy studies on I think it might be called the nocebo effect. It's basically when you are ignorant to something, how
Okay.
you don't get affected by it. Like there was like some study on people who were allergic to poison ivy.
Okay.
And they blindfolded them.
Yeah.
And they told them that it wasn't a poison ivy plant that they were rubbing on them. It was like something else.
Okay.
And they had no reaction to
Interesting.
the plant
It's kind of like
they were.
placebo, right?
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah, there was like it's like a reverse effect or something. I'm not explaining it great, but point being
Interesting.
that your mind, when you make a switch in your mind, like, oh,
Totally.
this isn't going to affect me, then
But
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I actually like feel bad that adults aren't treated with the same,
Right.
you're not treated with that respect of your mind being such a powerful thing
Right.
that can work for or against you. So having that as a kid made me think about the mind of a child
But you
and the
knew you
impact
had
of your mind.
cancer, right?
I mean,
Like
I
as a
don't know if
kid-
it ever really registered as cancer. Like,
Interesting.
because you don't, even if somebody said you have cancer,
You had no context as a
Yeah, you're not
5-year-old
like,
as
oh,
to
this
what
is
that
some
is.
vi-
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, do I know I was really sick? Yeah, I was
Right.
home. I was away. You know, I was kept
Right.
away from everybody. I I remember how much I remember being like sad at times and scared at times, but not in a way where it's not the kind of fear that we would get as an adult, which is like fear of like death.
It's all over.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing. So it was like around when I was like 15 that I started to really think about like, wow, the mind is a really powerful thing.
Wow.
And so I think it just helped catalyze my interest in all that. I was always interested in philosophy and things like that, but it made me even more aware, and it made me take my life for it made me not take my life for granted. It made me like think like, wow, I am actually pretty lucky to be here, and I should do something with my life. Yeah. So it's had, but I've kept it alive. I've kept the impact of that alive through conversation about it and reminding myself that it happened, which is important, because then it keeps you grateful, like in some way. So.
Yeah, I feel like more people should be more grateful in that way. You know, we kind of talked about this a little bit. My next question was, how do you measure success? And we went into a little bit of a holistic approach to what success is and well-being and things like that. Do you consider yourself a successful person today?
I do, because like I can genuinely, like I do equate it to being in the flow of your life path, because to me it's not so much like a place to get, it's more of like I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
So I have like a lot of ambitions for what I want to do with the Wellbeing Hacker, with other things in my life, and I'm constantly drawn to do those things. Yeah. And sometimes I want them to happen tomorrow, or I feel like they should have happened yesterday, but it's all okay, because I feel like I'm in that flow.
It's happening. You're like in it.
Yeah. So to me, it's not like, oh, things I need to have all these boxes checked, or I need to have built out, this company to X, Y, and Z size. It's more of like, am I really on the right path to that? And so I feel successful in that way, but there's still a lot more I want to do.
I agree with you. I think you're successful too. Yeah. So what are some of these goals? Like, what do you consider some of your goals for the next few years?
Well, I'm writing a book right now that I think is really important.
Awesome.
It's called Gross National Wellbeing.
Nice.
And the bigger picture to all of this stuff to me is that we have to change the way we measure success in society, that we should be as aware of our well-being score as much as we're aware of our credit score, that we need to reorient the things that we are looking to achieve, and like we have to have more of an education on what it takes to be fulfilled in life. So it's like, so I just think the whole structures of society need to be revamped so that when a president comes into office, he's measured by how much well-being of that country increased over the course of his term.
That's such a good way to look at it.
And same for a city or an organization. And it doesn't mean that money's no longer important or the GDP is no longer important. It just means that we would say, okay, well, so this president increased GDP during his term, but did well-being also increase?
Right.
Or was it at the detriment to people's well-being? Because sometimes that can be the case. I mean, growth doesn't always mean it's
sometimes
good for
it's
people.
an inverse relationship, and sometimes they go side by side.
And so it's a matter of always comparing the two. So so I guess when I think down the road, I see myself more as like a messenger for that message, because to me I feel it and see it so clearly, and can see how it would shake out in education, how it would shake out in government or in companies, and so I guess I just see myself kind of as a messenger, kind of thought leader around that.
I love that. I love that whole topic, and I can't wait for this book. Do you have a date yet? Do you know when?
Well, as long as I finish, if I I think the earliest it would be published would be next fall.
Next fall.
Because
So
I have to
fall
finish
of
the-
2019.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We'll
so
keep a lookout.
thanks. Yes. we'll see how quickly I can get it written.
Where do you see the state of the world in 5 years from today, and how do you see yourself and your business contributing to it?
Well, I guess it goes along with what I was
The
just
book probably,
saying.
yeah.
Because I don't believe there's any reason why the world should look the way that it does.
Right.
I mean, I've walked through the slums of Kibera, which is in Kenya. It's the largest slum in all of Africa.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I've seen some of these places, it's just like, it's so crazy to me that they exist.
Yeah.
Because we have enough resources on the
Right.
planet for everything.
Right.
And I think, I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years, but I think that we have the ability to be a lot more better off than we are.
Yeah.
I think that as like technology starts to take over, and you know all this talk about like AI and the robots and all that stuff, we just have to be mindful then of, well, with these new developments, how is that actually impacting quality of life around the world?
Right.
Because these things can help us a lot.
Right.
They can do things for the world, but if we're not looking at them through the lens of well-being, they can take over and possibly create bigger gaps in society.
Yeah.
And there's so
And that's true of like almost anything in life, I feel
Yeah.
like, if you're not mindful of it. Yeah.
right. It's true.
Yeah.
It's like you have to kind of be looking at it through that lens.
Totally.
Otherwise, it can kind of go either way in terms of being
Right.
beneficial or not. So yeah, I think we have everything. We live in this time period where we have all these resources at our fingertips, right? People can connect to anyone that they want in the world.
Right.
You can educate yourself as quickly as you want about
Mhm.
any topic. You
It's
know,
true.
you have the ability to start businesses in ways that you could never do before. I mean, so we live in this like insanely unique time where humans and technology are integrating and all this. So we have no excuse not to be a world that is like thriving, where all people are really
Yeah.
accounted for in some way. And so I just think that we don't have an excuse anymore, that we
Yeah.
really could change.
So you're
the
gonna try
world
to
could
make-
look different.
Make that movement.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think the message of this book kind of starts to point people
Yeah.
in that direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So exciting. What is a valuable piece of advice that you'd like to give to other entrepreneurs who are creating conscious businesses as well?
Definitely not to get, just be mindful of other people's expectations, or of the achievement addiction, and not feeling like I was saying before, if you know that you're on the right path, it's like stick to that. Don't feel like you have to sway it because other people are doing things that are creating faster growth or more
Right.
revenue and all that stuff. And especially if you're in New York City, you have to be
Right.
really careful for that. But you have to be careful about that because we're surrounded by a lot of ambitious people.
Yes.
And sometimes you feel like, oh, I should be doing more, I should be further along, but there is no where you should be if you're really doing what you feel like you're meant to do, and whatever it is that you're doing is having a legitimate impact.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of staying confident and grounded in like yourself and believing that you're on the right track.
Beautiful.
Not getting swayed.
I love it. Is there anything else that you wanted me to ask you that I didn't ask you? Anything you wanted to tell people?
No, I mean, anything, when it comes to like my site and stuff, I have a few resources I just made available. Like I have a new well-being assessment that I think is great for
Cool.
people to take, because knowing your well-being score is kind of like the first step to
Oh,
being on
right.
a well-being
I
journey.
should take that.
Uh-huh.
It's an online test?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
it's actually like a 100 question assessment that I created, but it gives you a score in all the different areas of life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and the goal is to not just like have it be a one and done thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like take it once, take it again in 4 months or 6 months and stuff. Work
And
on
see
a
how
few
you're doing.
things.
Yeah.
So that your goals in life is more of like, is what I'm doing increasing my well-being or not,
Cool.
and kind of, you know, keeping track of that and making it more of a lifelong
Yeah.
commitment to that. So
Yeah.
yes, there's a few things like that on my site.
Yeah, you have a lot of great resources actually. I downloaded your, what was it? The one with the
workplace
stats, the workplace
Yeah.
stats. That was just super interesting. Just
Yeah,
to
if you're
have.
somebody in the workplace,
Yeah.
that's like a good, just like free resource. I'm trying to create
Super
some
cool.
more
Yeah.
free stuff for people, and like, you know, there's just a lot to create and do. And I'm working on a comprehensive life course.
Nice.
So it'll be like video based and talk about the structure of well-being that I put together and stuff. So yeah, there's
Cool.
a few good things on the site, but I'm
So I'll link to those
working
for
on
sure.
more. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Danielle.
Yeah,
this
thank
was
you.
awesome.
Thanks. I
This
love
was
what you're
such a great
doing. This is
convo.
yeah.
Thanks, me too.
It's very
So I guess
much
I'm on the
needed,
right path.
especially
Yeah.
in New York.
I know, right?